Honourable Jonathan Coleman.
Mr Speaker, I must say it's great to be back in Parliament, and I want to congratulate you and your fellow officers on your elevation, in your case, and re-election for the Speaker to your positions. And I'd like to say to the new members across the House from whatever party, welcome to the Parliament. We've had a great range of maiden speeches from a range of members, and I'm very much looking forward to some great speeches this afternoon from the new national members. We're bringing in some real quality people, and I think those people have great careers ahead of them. I also want to acknowledge the many National Party members and supporters in the gallery today who have come down or from all around the country to hear those maiden speeches. So, Mr Speaker, I can't let that last speech go without pointing out one or two things. And the thing that really struck me is that those guys over there did one thing in government and are now saying another thing in opposition. And of course, there is a word for that, Mr Speaker, but we don't need to go into that. But the facts bear this out, because, Mr Speaker, under the first term of this national government, 100,000 hectares of land were sold. Under the 9 years of the Labor government, 666,000 hectares of land were sold. 666,000 hectares. In 1 year alone, 2006, those people in government sold 383,000 hectares of land. So for Charles Cheval to get up now and to say that he's opposed to land sales to foreigners, that is nothing more, Mr Speaker, than cheap politics, below-the-belt politics. And the reality is, Mr Speaker, I can tell you, Mr Shearer doesn't actually believe this stuff because he's a person with a wider international perspective on things. He knows that New Zealand has to grow, that we need foreign direct investment, but the problem is he can't have his voice heard in that caucus, Mr Speaker, because it's the hard-nosed political people like Trevor Mallard who are pulling the strings. And what was really interesting when you heard Charles Cheval's speech there, he was talking about the tests that were applied in this case. Well, the thing is, the tests that were applied were exactly the same ones that were used by David Parker and all the other Labor ministers who were involved in land consent applications during the 9 years of the Labor government. But suddenly they are saying that the way it's been done all along is so wrong, and this government's got it so wrong, but somehow they had it right. And Mr Speaker, I don't think that can possibly add up. So I think the public are going to see this for what it is. But what these people over there need to know, that when David Shearer goes to Auckland and goes to Chinese New Year and says Gong Chi Fa Chai, those people know that the Labor Party are anti-Chinese. That's the sad fact. That's how it's going to be portrayed in Beijing. That if you ever get a Labor government here, of course, yes, except when these people want donations, these people want to live in a small, insular New Zealand that doesn't look outwards. They're being increasingly influenced by the Greens, and I can tell you, their concept of economic sovereignty is the road to economic ruin. So, Mr Speaker, they are a party, and you can tell by how agitated Marion Street is that we're really hitting the nail here. They are a party that when they are in government, they do something totally different. Now, there's another example, Mr Speaker, that's been brought to our attention. The Major Events Management Act 2007, a very important act which quite rightfully, Mr Speaker, was designed to stop scalping at major events. And when it was brought in, the sponsor of that bill, the Honourable Trevor Mallard, he was very clear about why that legislation was needed, Mr Speaker. He said scalping is a rip-off, and Marion Street said she wants to come and punch me on the nose, so we are really hitting the points here. Scalping is a rip-off that could deny many people the opportunity to see an event. That's what Trevor Mallard said, Mr Speaker. Scalping is a rip-off. So, Mr Speaker, it became as a great surprise today to people to pick up the front page of the Dominion and see the king of uber cool, New Zealand's hippest 57-year-old Trevor Mallard being accused here of selling tickets for a profit online. Isn't that sad, Mr Speaker? Just like with asset sales, Labor ex-ministers do one thing in government, but when it suits them, in this case for personal financial gain, they are very happy to do something else. And I can imagine the shock that these young Wellingtonians got when they were called to Trevor Mallard's contraband ticket office, the Nainai electorate office for the Hutt South, and found the king of Uber Cool coming out, no doubt, in his tight black T-shirt, getting down with the kids. Well, I don't know. But flogging off these tickets at an exorbitant price. And, Mr Speaker, if that is about creating a more equal society, well, I think the more equal society is, frankly, empty rhetoric on that side, Mr Speaker. Quite frankly, it's a complete disgrace. And I feel sorry for Mr Shearer, Mr Speaker, because he's a good man. He was one of my constituents, and I'm pretty sure he voted for me. He's now moved to the Mount Albert electorate. But he's a good man. And the Labour Party do not deserve David Shearer. He is too good for these people. But he made a choice a long time ago. He set out his stall, and now he's stuck with this bunch of losers over there. And I can tell you, Mr Speaker, those people are a long, long way for government. But there's good news too, because today we've had the budget policy statement. And look, the budget policy statement, Mr Speaker, shows that we are on track economically. John Key, the best Prime Minister that this country's ever had, said he would get the economics of this country on the right track. And look, the new New Zealand First member, Tracy Martin, go and have a read of this. It's a very good piece of paper. In fact, a number of pieces of paper. We are on track to post a surplus of $370 million by 2014-2015. Responsible management of the finances that Labor were never able to deliver. They wasted 9 years, Mr Speaker, squandering every single opportunity. We could be so far ahead if they hadn't raided the cookie jar year after year to buy off votes from every community imaginable. Now, Mr Speaker, there is an essential choice that the voters of New Zealand made at the general election. They voted for the mixed ownership model because, unlike these guys, the New Zealand public understands we've got to get debt down. But we've also got to build infrastructure. We've got $245 billion worth of assets. And what we're going to do, we are going to, in order to buy infrastructure that the country needs, we are going to partially float 4 of those companies. And what I want to know, Marion Street, if this is such a bad idea, while you guys were in office, why didn't you buy back the 25% of Air New Zealand that, yep, see, she's playing the violin. Why didn't they do it? And the fact is, they had the opportunity. Their opposition to this is purely political. But if they had their way, they would be borrowing more. We would be getting into more debt. We would be going down the route of Greece, Ireland, Spain, Portugal. We are on track, and we're on track because we're making the decisions that are right for New Zealand. So, Mr Speaker, I'm very proud to be a member of this National Party-led government. The future is excellent for New Zealand if we stick to the economic track that we are on. If these people ever get back in charge, Mr Speaker, I can tell you the outlook is not going to be good at all. But fortunately, what I can reassure members and the public is that these people are so far away from making an impact, it's negligible. Years away. Look, I don't think the next Labor Prime Minister, frankly, is even in the Parliament. I don't. In fact, who is the leader of the opposition?
Where is he?
Well, I don't know. Is it Winston?
It could be.
Well, it could be. It could be the leader of the Green Party, because that is a leaderless rebel. Paul Hutchison talked about the 120-point economic plan. It's about economic growth. It's about looking outward. It's about getting investment into New Zealand, growing the economy. That myopic look that says, don't come here if you're a Chinese investor, please, that is not going to work. We've got to get the capital into this country. We've got to raise exports. We've got to get the country going. It needs clear-sighted vision, and that's what the mixed ownership model is bringing, a very clear view on what New Zealand needs. So, Mr Speaker, those are my remarks. We've laid out our stall, a clear plan, clear delivery. The public are behind us. It's the way to go.
Todd McClay.
Mr Speaker, thank you. A great pleasure to rise and speak in this debate. Can I start by saying